Most relationships don't end with a big fight. They don't collapse because of cheating, betrayal, or some dramatic moment that clearly explains everything. Most of them fade slowly, quietly, almost confusingly. One day you just feel it that something is off. The connection isn't the same. Conversations feel forced. The person you once couldn't get enough of now feels distant. And the worst part is, you can't even point to a clear reason why. So you start asking yourself, what happened? Was it them? Was it me? Or did we just fall out of love? But here's the uncomfortable truth most people never really face. Relationships don't fail suddenly. They fail long before they end. And if you don't understand why, you'll keep repeating the same patterns, just with different people. Because the real reasons relationships fail aren't obvious. They're psychological, subtle, and often deeply rooted in how we see ourselves. Think about how most relationships begin. At the start, everything feels easy. You're more patient, more interesting, more alive. You listen better. You laugh more. You show your best sides without even trying. But that's not the real you. That's a version of you shaped by desire. In psychology, this is often called projection. You're not just seeing the other person, you're seeing what you want them to be. And they're doing the same with you. You fill in the gaps. You ignore the red flags. You interpret everything in the most positive way possible. And for a while, it works. Because both of you are participating in a kind of silent agreement. I'll be who you want me to be, if you do the same for me. But here's the problem. No one can keep that up forever. Eventually, reality starts to leak in. You get tired. You become more honest, less filtered. You stop trying so hard to impress. Your habits, insecurities, and unresolved issues begin to show. And suddenly, the person in front of you doesn't match the person you fell for. But it's not because they changed. It's because now you're finally seeing them clearly. This is where most relationships start to crack, not because something is wrong, but because something is real. And most people aren't prepared for that. We grow up believing that love is about finding the right person, someone who just fits, someone who makes everything feel effortless. But real connection isn't effortless. It's confronting. Because when you get close to someone, you don't just experience love, you experience yourself more deeply. Your fears come out. Your insecurities surface. Your need for control, validation, reassurance, it all becomes visible. And this is where things get uncomfortable. Because now, the relationship isn't just about the other person. It's about what they trigger in you. Maybe you start feeling like you're not enough. Maybe you get anxious when they pull away. Maybe you become overly controlling because you're afraid of losing them. Or maybe you shut down completely to protect yourself from getting hurt. None of these reactions come from the present moment. They come from your past, from old emotional wounds that were never fully understood or resolved. And the relationship becomes the stage where those wounds play out. This is why two people can genuinely care about each other and still fail. Because they're not just relating to each other. They're relating through layers of past experiences, fears, and unconscious patterns. And unless those patterns are recognized, they will quietly sabotage everything. Another reason relationships fail is something even more subtle. We expect the other person to fix something in us that we haven't fixed ourselves. We don't always say it out loud, but it shows up in how we behave. We want them to make us feel secure. We want them to validate us. We want them to fill the emptiness we don't know how to handle alone. And at first, they might. But over time, that expectation becomes pressure. Because no one can carry that responsibility forever. And when they inevitably fall short, we feel disappointed, even betrayed. But what we're really feeling is the collapse of an illusion. The illusion that someone else could complete us. This is where a lot of people start blaming their partner. You've changed. You don't care like you used to. You're not the same person I fell in love with. But if you look closely, something deeper is happening. You're not just reacting to them. You're reacting to the fact that they're no longer meeting the emotional role you assigned to them. And that's not love. That's dependency. There's also something else that slowly erodes relationships. And it's so common that most people don't even notice it happening. Avoidance. Not big, obvious avoidance, but the small, everyday kind. Avoiding difficult conversations. Avoiding uncomfortable truths. Avoiding the parts of yourself you don't want to face. Instead of addressing issues directly, people let them build up. They stay silent to keep the peace. They pretend things are okay when they're not. They hope problems will fix themselves over time. But they don't. They grow. And eventually, the relationship becomes filled with unspoken tension. Resentment starts to build not because of one big thing, but because of 100 small things that were never acknowledged. And by the time someone finally speaks up, it's not a conversation anymore. It's an emotional explosion. At that point, it's not just about the issue at hand. It's about everything that was never said. And that's usually when things fall apart. But maybe the most overlooked reason relationships fail is this: people stop being curious about each other. At the beginning, you want to know everything. What they think, what they feel, what they've been through. You ask questions. You pay attention. You genuinely care. But over time, you start assuming you already know them. You stop asking. You stop listening as closely. You stop exploring who they're becoming. And this is dangerous because people are not static. They change, slowly, constantly, often in ways they don't even fully understand themselves. And if you're not paying attention, you don't grow with them. You grow apart. What makes this even more complicated is that most people don't notice this disconnection when it's happening. Because on the surface, everything might look fine. You still talk. You still spend time together. You still go through the motions. But something deeper is missing. And that something is presence. Real attention. Real understanding. Real connection. Without it, the relationship becomes more like a routine than a bond. And routines don't hold people together emotionally. They just keep things from falling apart for a while, until one day they do. Now here's the part most people don't want to hear. Love, by itself, is not enough. You can love someone deeply and still not be able to build a healthy relationship with them. Because love doesn't automatically give you emotional maturity. It doesn't teach you how to communicate. It doesn't heal your insecurities. It doesn't make you self-aware. All of that is your responsibility. And if you don't take that responsibility, the relationship will carry the weight of it. until it can't anymore. So when people ask, why do most relationships fail? They're usually looking for a simple answer. But the reality is layered. It's not just about compatibility. It's not just about communication. It's not just about effort. It's about awareness. Awareness of yourself. Awareness of your patterns. Awareness of what you bring into the relationship, not just what you expect from it. Because at the end of the day, every relationship you have is, in some way, a reflection of your relationship with yourself. If you don't understand your own emotions, you'll struggle to understand your partner's. If you avoid your own issues, you'll avoid dealing with problems in the relationship. If you rely on someone else to make us feel whole, you'll always feel unstable when they can't. And this doesn't mean relationships are doomed. It means they require a level of honesty most people aren't used to. Not just honesty with the other person, but with yourself. And that's the real challenge. Because it's much easier to say, we weren't right for each other, than to ask, what part of me contributed to this? That question is uncomfortable, but it's also where growth begins. And maybe that's the real point. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some are meant to show you things you couldn't see on your own. Your patterns, your fears, your unmet needs. They reveal the parts of you that still need attention. And if you're willing to look at those parts, really look at them, you start to change. Not for the next person, but for yourself. And ironically, that's what makes future relationships different. Not because you find someone perfect, but because you show up differently. More aware, less reactive, more honest, less dependent. And when two people do that, even imperfectly, something real can actually exist between them. Not the kind of love that's built on illusion or projection, but the kind that sees clearly and chooses to stay anyway. And maybe that's the real question you're left with. Not why do relationships fail, but are you willing to see yourself clearly enough to stop repeating the same one?